I had hoped to do this address on the 31st of last month, but issues arose. But we're here now. I want to thank Spelman College for allowing us to learn and grow about the university and college. Now, I always listen to the new people, because you can get some bias when you listen to people that have been in an institution for a long time. You can get a little bias. But if you hear what new people have to say, you won't hear the bias. Or it's not there as much. It's not pronounced as much. There's a few complaints, believe it or not, at Spelman. One, apparently, the freshman living quarter. They don't have AC. You know how hot it gets in Atlanta? And the freshmen, they don't have AC. That's been apparently a tradition. The freshmen this year are complaining about it. Apparently it's never going to change. But there are complaints. Spelman is nice to see. We've got a general address to black women, because Spelman is an all-black woman college. The first all-black woman college in America. Spelman College. You know, it began very small, as a small little Baptist school for black women. 10 students and $100. And Miss Gill, and Miss Packard, 2 friends and school teachers, started Spelman College. And it was mostly garnering support from the community. They were doing mutual aid before we even knew what the terminology mutual aid has come to mean nowadays. They were giving money to those students so they could finance books, to learn Latin, algebra, zoology. And you have to remember, this is in 1881, not too long after the Civil War. Most people can't read, they're illiterate. And these 2 women wanted to teach mostly illiterate students zoology, algebra. You know how much energy and time it takes to teach people nowadays anything. Can you imagine back in 1881? They were visionaries. And their vision has blossomed into what Spelman College has become. Your own great, sacred, and hollow grounds. It's nice to be here. Now, Spelman College, we got to talk about some things. You know, in February, we went to a lot of big cities. And we started a commotion and a clamor. We said the only way you can repair this nation is you have to do reparations now. We were in Atlanta, but we didn't go to Spelman. We went to Chicago, New York, New Orleans, Los Angeles, Minneapolis. We said, repair the nation, reparations now. And it started a conversation, not just here at home, but abroad. Jamaica, everywhere. And that's good. Because we said this is time sensitive. It has to happen in order to repair the nation. This is about, for black women in particular, not a New Deal. Roosevelt did the New Deal. This is not about a New Deal. We're not coming with a whole new solution, as though the problem is brand new. The problem is very old and ancient. And we don't need a New Deal this time. Black women, this is a general address to you. You don't need a New Deal. Spelman College and black women of America, you need a better deal. A better deal than what you've got in America. I said in a previous video that there is no way in the world indigenous and black women should be asked or mandated to pay income tax in the United States of America. Black and indigenous women built America and made it the most prosperous nation that the planet has ever seen. And their share, their return on investment has been beyond negative at this point, to the point of insanity. You don't need a New Deal. You need a better deal. I said that we should abolish all state and federal income tax to African American and indigenous women for at least 10 years in America. I think that's a good deal for black women. They weren't allowed to generate any income in this country. for centuries. Even when women got the right to vote, black women did. Everybody got their rights to vote before black women did in America. Black women were forced to give birth so those individuals could make America wealthy. I said 10 years minimum. No state and federal income tax. That's a better deal for black and indigenous women in this country. We're at Spelman College, and there were studies that were recently done that said the African American household wealth can increase by upwards of 40% in America if the president did executive order abolishing $10,000 worth of student loan debt to American borrowers. So you have an increase of 40% of household wealth for African Americans in this country just through an executive order on eliminating $10,000 worth of student loan debt. Oh, that's definitely in the tool belt. I think it's pros and cons for doing it and not doing it. But if you want to know my opinion, it's a debt we owe black women. So I'm in favor of doing it. That's finance. But we're moving into an age of automation and technology. A lot of individuals are not adequately prepared for this future. There's a lot of low-wage African American women who deserve to have training and skills for the digital age that we live in. This is where philanthropy in the private sector can come in. Spelman College wouldn't have survived if it wasn't for Rockefeller, John D. Rockefeller. Everybody knows Rockefeller in America. He paid off the debt for Spelman College to exist. You have Rockefeller Hall, or the oldest building on Spelman campus, Rockefeller Hall. So philanthropy in this kind of capitalistic system that we have has always played a role, a progressive role, in aiding black women. Tonight, I'm calling on 3 philanthropists in the modern digital world and age to assist with developing a core of black women to train as developers for the new and emerging economy. Mackenzie Scott, Melinda Gates, and Jack Dorsey. This is where philanthropy really works. You know, I was listening to somebody. A lot of times people want to do this, but they don't know who to connect the funds to. If you don't know, I know people. We'll supply the names. There's a lot of women in tech, black women in tech, who really want more diversity in the field. If we could train anywhere from 10,000 to 50,000 new black women, train them for jobs in technology by providing certificates, boot camps, setting up institutions on historically black colleges like Spelman. They're trained specifically in tech jobs. That's one way to do diversity, equity, and inclusion. In the tech world, we know that the tech world is uber misogynistic, uber patriarchal, and can be racist. We need new people. I think it would be a good idea to set up a citadel at Spelman College, funded through philanthropy, to train 10,000 new black women in tech jobs. You'd even have me pitch in for this, because I think it's needed. You know, there was a statistic that said 3% of all tech employees are black women. 3%. That's abysmal. That's appalling. But the good news is, at Spelman College, visionaries have always turned things around. Then you get, well, the protection component. And this has been difficult, because the way the American society is constructed, the most impoverished group in America is black and indigenous women. And well, if you're impoverished under the rules of capitalism, by its very nature, you're a victim and a prey. Payday loans pop up in your community. You know, conservatives love to talk about opportunity zones. I'm not opposed to opportunity zones. I'm not necessarily in favor of them either. sort of kind of like ambivalent. But this whole notion is kind of a misnomer. It's kind of a facade, any way you slice it. The African American community had opportunity zones. Tulsa, Oklahoma, was a thriving opportunity zone for black businesses and wealth in America. And white America firebombed it, and then came in on the ground and shot and slaughtered hundreds of people. The same thing happened in Wilmington, Greenwood, Chicago. So there's been opportunity zones in America. That's why it was like this whole platinum plan bullshit that the lunatic from Mar-a-Lago pulled out of his ass because Jared Kushner gave it to him. I was like, it's complete bullshit. 500 million. Wait a minute, $500 million is all you're going to give in grants. And you know who was going to get the money, right? It was going to be people like Candace Owens, Brandon Tatum, David Harris Jr., Larry Elders. It was going to be all the black conservatives that get the money. And black conservatives in the African American community, according to all the statistics, make up less than 10%. He wasn't planning on giving any opportunity grants to the wider African American community. And you say, wait a minute, how do you know this? They could have done the Platinum Plan in the Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP. Congress appropriated $1.2 trillion. Now, I don't have to be a brilliant mathematician to know that 500 million from 1.2 trillion leaves a whole lot of billions. But he didn't do it. But then he came to Atlanta and told you, I'm going to do a platinum plan, a black platinum plan. A platinum plan for black America is what he said. And I'm like, wait a minute, you could have done that in the PPP when you had Steve Mnuchin in charge of the Treasury Department. 500 million out of 1.2 trillion is peanuts. So you know it's all bullshit. It was all done for politics. You know, the same thing that Candace Owens complains that the left does every election year. Well, that was an election year, and that was a stunt if I had ever seen one before. No. What you can do is stop with all the litigation in court. You know, the previous administration gave all kinds of money to farmers across America, especially the South. They got a disproportionate amount of funding and farm aid. And what do you know? Not hardly any of it went to African American farmers. The African American farmers have been suing since the 90s in this country to get farm assistance from their own government. And literally, the Biden-Harris administration had dispensed the funding to the black farmers. And white farmers in different states across America took the Biden administration to court, saying that they're discriminating against white people, when 98% of the farming funding that the previous administration sent out went to white farmers. But now that black farmers have been adjudicated by the courts on multiple occasions to get this funding, now white farmers are suing and blocking it in court. If this can be done by executive action, this needs to happen. That's how you protect black women in America. We also have to talk about physical violence, because black women are on the receiving end of it, disproportionately. Sandra Bland, Monique Grimes, Breonna Taylor, just to name a few. You know, there's groups in this country that we can all agree on that have, since their inception, served no other purpose than to terrorize black women in America. The oldest, most grotesque institution and group of hate in America is the Klu Klux Klan. Do you know, to this very day, you're going to be shocked and surprised to hear this, the Klu Klux Klan has never been labeled as a terrorist, domestic terrorist organization in America. This can happen through executive order. The president can sign an executive order saying, I hereby declare the Klu Klux Klan to be a domestic terrorist organization. Now, the lunatic from Mar-a-Lago did have that, to be fair, in the Platinum Plan for Black America. I actually agree with something that the lunatic had in the plan. It's a good idea. It should have bipartisan support. You would think that the Congress and the Senate could quickly draft up a bill declaring the Ku Klux Klan a terrorist organization. Then you freeze out funding. And nobody wants to be associated with terrorism. So the hundreds of thousands of people who still affiliate with local Ku Klux Klan organizations all across America, you give them 24 to 48 hours to leave. And if they don't leave, then what do you know? They're considered terrorists. And nobody wants to be considered a domestic terrorist, right? Well, if that's the case, why would you want to be affiliated with an organization that was created to terrorize people if you don't want to be called a terrorist. Kind of odd, wouldn't you think? Side note, the Klu Klux Klan was actually formed to terrorize Irish people. Because they were anti-immigrant. Now where have we heard that bullshit from? I'll let you be the judge of that. That's real protection. That's a better deal for black women in America. You know, this is an election year. It's a midterm. Midterms are rough and tumble. We'll need all hands on deck. You got Stacey Abrams running for governor this year. She could be the first African American woman to be a governor in the whole region of the South. You're going to have a lot of people come visit Spelman. You might have former presidents, former first ladies, former secretaries of state, celebrities, musicians. You're going to have a lot of people come and visit Spelman. My advice to you, make sure the bathrooms are clean. People notice those kind of little things. Be good students. You know, the midterms are like this. A lot of times midterms are, well, people perceive them to be tough. But the finals, that's really the tough part. The midterms, they're kind of easy. But sometimes you can overthink when something's easy. In 2010, former President Barack Obama lost 63 congressional seats. And I believe 6 or 9 Senate seats. It was a total shellacking. But why did it happen? Because people weren't motivated. People were upset. And because people weren't innovative. You know, everybody's saying the Democrats this year in the midterms, they're cruising for a shellacking. I don't necessarily think so. Black women are very creative. And I think this election, this midterm, you're going to see a lot of creativity. But you have to allow for creativity. You have to allow for imagination. Spelman, you're an incubator of such things. And I think that a lot of people are going to draw from your expertise. You think, oh, I'm just a first-year student. Public relations. I have no expertise yet. You do. You have quite a bit. If you're a freshman, sophomore, senior, alumni, go and work on a campaign. Go and register voters on your campus. Write letters to prospective voters. Make phone calls and text your friends. Each one has got to bring one. This is historical Spelman College. And this is about protection. This is about a better deal. Spelman, this week, there's going to be a very historic vote to determine the next Supreme Court Justice. For the first time, a black woman potentially might be appointed to the court. This is a historic year, Spelman College. It's a year of ebbs and flows and changes. The year of the water type. You can do anything you set your mind to, Spelman. You're going to be integral in victory in November, Spelman College. I already know this. If just 100 Spelman College students make 20 calls each to register for undecided voters, you know how many phone calls you've made? If 100 students knock on 10 doors across Georgia, you know how many voters you've reached in contact. There's over 2,000 students at Spelman College. If everybody said, I'm going to register 5 people, you know what type of impact Spelman College has made. This is going to be a very monumental year, Spelman College. We're going to do everything all at once. And it's going to be a better deal for black women. Because it's been a rotten deal. And it's time to do a better deal. Not a new deal, a better deal. Thank you, Spelman. It was a pleasure. And I know, under the circumstance, this is virtual. But soon, we'll be in person again.